can't make it if we.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Anglophone West School District, it is my privilege to extend a warm welcome to Bryan St. Louis, our keynote speaker for today's Professional Learning Day. With well over a decade of experience in education as a teacher, principal, and community leader across North America, Bryan brings a wealth of insight and a lived, authentic perspective that inspires both professional growth and professional reflection. Bryan, as you prepare to engage with our educators and staff, please know that your presence is embraced with anticipation and gratitude. We look forward to the insights you will share and the impact your session will undoubtedly have on our collective journey towards a more empathetic, inclusive, and adaptive learning community. Your message that empathy is not merely a concept, but a powerful, intentional action speaks directly to your transformative approach. Our district's mission to nurture learning in a healthy, safe, inclusive environment so that students thrive and become confident, contributing community members is a direct correlation with your work, and we hope to build those connections moving forward. We know that your insights will allow us to open more connections and collaborations and, in turn, allow us more opportunities to build on that. Thank you, Bryan, for coming today.
Leah, thank you very much for that introduction. I appreciate that very much. And I also want to thank as well Melissa for inviting me out as well to the Anglo West School District. I'm very happy and very appreciative to be with every single one of you here that are live with us, as well as those who are also online watching. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with every single one of you, and also the opportunity to share this framework that I believe can make a very strong, positive difference. But before we get into the keynote for today, because I heard I have about an hour to an hour and a half. Is that okay with you, everyone here? Are you guys sure about that? Yeah, all right. So what I like to do, because at the end of the day, I know right here live, I still want to be able to hear your voice. I love you guys are all teachers, right? Everyone is a teacher here or has experience with that. I love interaction. I like to hear from you as well. And if you're online, you can join in with this. It's up to you on how you want to do this. However, I want to hear your voice. Is that okay that I hear your voice today? I can even do a little bit better than that, right? Is it okay if I hear your voice today? There you go. There you go. So I like to do this bit of I work with this on students. I do this whenever I do presentations, and you'll understand why I care so deeply about these three words. But I do believe that these three words together will make a massive difference. And simply put, when I say we win, all I want you to say is, all right, so I'm going to see how powerful you really are. So I'll say it one more time. Ready? We win. I think you could do better than that. We win. One more time. We win. Awesome, awesome. And so with being able to win together, I believe that you'll see this all throughout the whole keynote that I'm speaking on today. You'll understand why I believe we win together, and we'll break through this concept throughout this whole time. And I'm looking forward to having a wonderful session with you all here, and again, with everyone that's online watching us virtually. And so thank you for your time, and I know that this will be very helpful as you're walking into this new school year. But before we get into this keynote, I think we have to address something that's very important, and we have to discuss something that we as teachers and educators know. And it's the fact that every single one of us have to always be learning. Do you believe that? Do you believe that we should be always learning as teachers? Okay, awesome. I like that energy, man. Thank you. And so in this encyclopedia, it's very important for us to know the definitions of these phrases before we go into this new school year. And so I hope that there's some of you who are able to know what these key phrases are before we go into this new school year, because it's going to be very important for your education and for your learning experience. And so I just need a volunteer. If you do know what this is, just please raise your hand and tell me what it means. Does anybody know what the term slay means? Slay. Please. To kill it, to nail it, love it. Here you go, sir. Thank you very much, man. Come on. So kill it, nail it, love it. He's slaying. He's actually slaying right now. That's awesome, man. And you know what? It's okay. If you are online, I'm sorry, but only those who are in person will be able to get these cards. Does anybody know, and excuse me, I even don't like these terms, but does anybody know what skibbity means? It's not very good. There you go. I love it. Who said that? Who said that? Very good. Awesome. It is not very good. I'm going to give you another one that I think some of you are going to like. Some of you are going to be okay with. Does anybody know what Riz means? Riz. Say it again. Gang? Game. Oh, yes, game. There you go. You got game. He got game actually as well. I love it, man. Riz. Let's go with another terminology. Does anybody know what high key or low key means? High key, low key. Go ahead. Discreet or outright. Love it, please. Give them a round of applause, too. They're doing great. I love it. Discreet or outright. I'm going to give you the one that you hate the most. Ready? 6, 7. And you're going to do it like 6, 7. Anybody know? It means nothing. That's right. It means nothing. We got Greg in the back. I love that. And while he's coming, you can come and grab it. Anybody know what aura farming means? Aura farming. That's a different one. You want to get a second one? You know what aura farming is? Somebody said I could text my sister. No, Melissa, I want to help you, but come on, you know what? Yeah, come get a car anyway, Melissa. But aura farming is basically when you have like a certain presence, a stronger presence, and you're looking to do it very well in front of people. I'm trying to fake it. All right. Let me see. Oh, you mean they're faking it? Okay. Does anybody know what drip means? Drip. Style. Who said that? Yes, style. We got a style. Give them a round of applause as well. Style. Love that. Anybody know what cap means? Cap. Lies. Yes, sir. And one more. Actually, 2 more. We got 2 more. You're welcome. Does anybody know what bussin' means? Yes, man. There you go. A round of applause for really good. And then the last one we'll do is, I said slay twice. Here we'll do, no, welcome. This is a different one. I highly doubt anybody knows what this means, but anybody know what phantom tax means? Even if you take a guess, I'll just give it to you. Sure, built-in. I don't even know what it means, to be honest, but here you go. Go ahead and take. I heard this is a new one. See, this is why we have to learn. Now we have to learn to get a new one, but here, you go ahead, absolutely. Melissa, you can't get 2 cards. Oh, there you go. Okay, well, she'll still get it, though. She'll still get it. There you go. Round of applause. Love that. Round of applause one more time. Awesome. Listen, I do this because, of course, we have students that are coming in that have their lingo, but I also do this in a way to just say thank you for the hard work that you do. It's not much on the cards, but it's still something. You get a coffee, you get a sandwich. It's just a way for me to say thank you for every single one of you who have taken the time to pour into our students, the time for you to be able to even learn their language as well, to be able to learn what's going on within their minds, and for you to have that level of determination to really help within what we're looking to build here in education. And so just one more time, I just want to say really thank you. You give yourselves a round of applause for the wonderful work that you continue to do every single year. I know I did all of this, but I just want to say my name is Bryan St. Louis. I've been a speaker. Now, I've done speaking for a few years, but I've been working as a youth worker in multiple different capacities for many years, for about 15 years now. I've worked in the juvenile detention facilities. I've worked as a teacher. For some reason, I became a principal very fast. I don't know how that happened, but apparently they saw the leadership that I was able to do. I worked as a youth pastor. I've worked in communities. I worked back again within different school districts for a few years. And in 2024, I decided to go all in and create my product of BSL Speaks, but more so the concept of radical empathy that I believe is making massive differences throughout our society, but also throughout the way that we're able to see our people and one another. And one of the things about this concept, this framework that we're going to talk about today, is something that I have always employed in every sector that I've worked in. No matter who I was working with, no matter where I've been to many different countries. I've worked with youth from many different places around the world. I've worked with youth as well who also don't speak English, who don't speak French. I speak both English and French. I've worked with youth from so many different levels of this world, to say the least. And yet, I have seen how the power of this framework continuously works over and over and over again. And one of the things that I want to bring is not only on how this is going to reframe or reimagine the way that we connect with our youth, but I believe that this message is even more timely right now for where we are in education. And what I want you to do for me, just for a moment, I just want you to imagine with me, this is the last day of school. I know you're about to go into school, but I just want you to imagine with me, this is the last day of school. And you get into school, you get into your classroom, you see all your students are antsy, they're ready to go, but they see you daydreaming. They see you daydreaming about 10 minutes before the bell rings. Anybody here watch Fresh Prince at all, growing up? Okay, do you remember Jazz from Fresh Prince? You see, what happened was, whenever Jazz did something crazy, Uncle Phil would take Jazz and throw him out the house. And the kids, what they don't realize is that you're daydreaming, throwing them out of the room faster than you would even want them to stay in. And I get it, because they're thinking to themselves, summer vacation, and you're like, man, I want to get up out of here even faster than you. You have your bags packed at your door. You're ready to go. I don't know if you've ever seen that one meme, but the teachers are literally running outside of the classroom the second the bell rings. They're daydreaming this beautiful dream of getting out even faster than your students. You're excited. You're ready to go. But then the bell rings. And your daydream ends, your students leave, and what happens is you don't get to go. Because grades still have to be inputted, classrooms still have to be packed, meetings still have to be done. Some of you even have summer school. I hope you don't, but some of you even would have to do summer school planning. Some of you have curriculum planning. And what we realize is that the job is still not finished. And I think one of the travesties that I've seen is this concept that teachers, they get such a long break, and people try to express how, well, you only work for 10 months out of the year. But the amount of work that you've done is probably worth more than 14 months put together. And a lot of times there's a level of unappreciation or undervaluing what is happening within this. I still remember myself as a first-year administrator. My school had about a 68% attendance rate. We were working with a lot of harder students. And I remembered working tirelessly with my staff, everyone there, to make sure that we were able to get to that mark that we needed. And we ended up going from a 68% attendance rate in one semester and jumping it all the way up to 89%. And it was beautiful because we created this culture in this school where our students really understood and realized how powerful we really care for them and how we want them to succeed. But in doing this, we were one of the schools that were actually being thought of to leave or to be canceled or what we say, shut down. But because we ended up getting things right, we were now on the record to keep moving forward. But that also meant now that we have to change buildings because there were certain issues with our building code. And so I remember finishing school, but now having to do all the work to make sure that everything can get forward for the next year. And we ended up getting a new building. It was a beautiful building. It was one of the best ones actually within a lot of the campuses of that district. We ended up doubling our student enrollment. But there was so much work during that summer, and I realized it didn't matter when the students left because the job was still not finished. And I still remember, in fact, there was a student, because when we were deciding to get things moving, we asked a few students if you want to come help and build this out. And I remember some of them came in and said to me, we're going to help you, or they decided to help us with the whole move. And I asked the students, I said, are you ready to get back to school? And some of them said, yeah, we're absolutely ready to go back to school. And I remember this one young girl, she said, I am not ready at all. I don't want to go to school at all. Can anybody tell me, what do you think? So I remember I asked you for interaction. Anybody want to tell me, what do you think? I'm going to get 3 options of why do you think she was not ready to go to school? Social anxieties. It's very possible. Anybody else? 2 more. Fear of failure. 1 more. Say it again. I think I heard somebody. Anybody else? Stress. The answer was she didn't have any clothes. She barely had any more clothes to go to school the next year. And we found that out because I was able to ask certain questions. And I never forgot that feeling because growing up, that was never an issue for me. That was never a thought for me that I wouldn't want to go back to school because I'm going to be wearing the same things over and over and over again. But I remember because of the certain questions that we were able to ask, we got the real answer as to why she did not care for school this coming year. And so what we decided to do, we came together, we got some money together, and I had one of my staff that was a woman come out and help her buy some new clothing. And I tell you that the shine that was on her face was astronomical. Because it wasn't the fact that she didn't want to learn. It wasn't the fact that she didn't care about education. There was something else that was hidden deeply, and finding out the real answer made the difference in that one student's life. And I tell you, that whole year, she actually flourished. But during that summer, as much as I wanted to be off, I realized that jobs never really finished. But a lot of us, we don't fuss. We don't necessarily bicker. And we're willing to see the job continue on day in and day out. What I'm seeing, though, is that there's a switch that's happening within our education these days. Anybody here a science teacher? Oh, there you go. We got one. And if you are not a science teacher, you may know what this concept is. It's the concept or the dream of perpetual motion. And the dream of perpetual motion, I'm just going to express this to you. It's a wheel that never stops, a pendulum that swings forever. It's a machine that runs without pause. The dream is beautiful. It's absolutely brilliant. It's actually inspiring because it pushes inventors to imagine and to create and to reach for what seems absolutely impossible. And in fact, the dream reminds us that there is more than what exists right now. And sometimes it even lights this fire of possibility that our minds and our hearts can reach for something that we may not have thought was even possible before. But sadly, this dream is not necessarily a reality. And physics reminds us that there's no system that can run endlessly. There's no engine that doesn't need fuel. Every motor needs rest. Every motion needs energy. And without it, everything falters. And so it seems that with the same way that we see education, I look at this pulse of education. Because I don't know about you, but I believe that teachers are truly the heart of our education. I believe that teachers, we pour out our passion, we pour out our care, we pour out our empathy towards our students day in and day out. And every lesson, it's a pulse that we use in order for us to give towards the future of a student. Every word is a vein that directs and energizes the body. Every action is the oxygen that carries life into the classroom. Because I believe that teaching is not just an instruction, but it's literally the lifeblood of education. Educators truly are the heart. And I've seen time and time again that you are living, breathing, giving so much out of yourselves in order for you to want to see the possible changes within our students. But the heart can't beat alone. It must be nourished, it must be valued, and it must be remembered. And sometimes I believe that it's easy for us to forget the heart because it pulses on a regular basis. It goes on and on and on again until something happens that's drastic or until something happens that is different than what we're normally feeling. In February of 2025, just a few months ago, I woke up. I know I sweat a lot in general. My students even make fun of me about that. They're always saying, like, Mr. St. Louis, why are you sweating? I'm like, dude, it's just a genetic condition, okay? I think I have like hyperhidrosis or something like that. At least that's what somebody told me. I haven't even gotten it checked. I wake up one morning, this is in February, and I wake up in this sweat. And I'll never forget that feeling because I don't sweat that much at night because I'm not doing anything, I'm just dreaming. And I'll never forget though, when I woke up, if you've never felt this before, I hope you never do. I started having these heart palpitations. And my heart started beating irregularly. I never forget that feeling. I was like, man, what is going on? And so I got a little scared. And I asked myself, am I okay? Because I normally work out a lot. I take care of my body. I try to eat right. I know I eat a lot of pizza, but I didn't think that was going to cause the heart palpitations. I called the nurse. Is it the 811 line, right? Call 811. And 811 asked me for all my symptoms. And I said, I'm feeling this. I'm sweating. I woke up. It's 3 a.m. I normally don't wake up at 3 a.m. My heart is beating irregularly. And all of this is happening. And I'll never forget what she tells me after I get this full explanation. She says, call us back when it gets worse. I said, man, you want me to die before I have to call you? Like, what are we talking about here? But it bothered me so deeply in that moment that somebody would say, just wait till it gets worse in order for us to get our true attention. And I thought about that concept, and as I was writing this speech, and I was thinking about everything that's happening within education, because I'm telling you right now, I go and speak to different schools throughout Canada, through North America. I've spoken to teachers who are in Mexico. I've spoken to teachers who are in Singapore. I've spoken to teachers who are in the European countries and African countries. I have seen continuously the same thread that many are saying to this day. And what I'm hearing and feeling from our teachers is that so many of us are beating at a regular pace, and then it gets irregular. And we're hoping that things don't get worse, but we're waiting until it gets worse until we try to fix the problem. And many of our teachers today are beating at an irregular heart rate. They're working at an irregular pace, and it's causing stress. It's causing a lot of issues within their minds. It's causing differences within the way that they're also teaching. It's causing differences within the ways that we're seeing interactions within the schools. We're seeing that our teachers are sometimes overworked, underappreciated, and we know that you love this. We know you came with this love and attention, that you care so deeply about our students. But love can't do it enough. Love is not enough, no. And for love to even exist and endure, it has to be nourished. It has to be replenished. And it has to be sustained. And more I talk to our professors, our teachers throughout our world, especially here in Canada, I'm hearing that teachers are running at unsustainable, irregular levels. Call us back when things get worse. And I believe that there's a point of time where things have already passed that time. And teachers are yelling out, expressing what they want. I've heard teachers who talk about the fact that they want more support, more help, a lot more guidance, even financial growth. And I speak to younger students who are going into education, and they have literally told me, man, I've had professors or teachers who've told me not to go into education. We have about 30 to 50% of our new teachers are leaving within just the 5 years. It's a perpetual motion. That's a dream that we wish we can have, but that perpetual motion is a myth. However, nourishment is a choice. And what I'm calling for is a nourishment to the very heartbeat of our educators who have been doing this at a mythological perpetual machine that does not work. I actually lived here in St. John or New Brunswick for a few months. And when I say a few months, I literally mean a few months. I ended up moving back to Alberta. It's not because I don't like it here. It's just things were just, there's an international airport at Calgary. I'm able to travel a lot easier that way. And I will say, I do hope one day I'll be able to come back here in this area and probably live, but maybe when my kids get older. I drove 47 hours from New Brunswick to Airdrie. And I had my two boys with me. They were 6 and 3 at the time. It was, and my wife was sitting in the car. She was sleeping a lot, but she was still keeping me up though. She did a wonderful job. But what really blew my mind, it was this beautiful thought. Because I was driving through I think they call it one of the most beautiful highways of Canada. And as I was driving, I'll never forget that feeling. And that feeling was that I'm driving on a highway that I didn't pave. I'm driving on a street. I'm driving on a road that for someone it took years to build. It took heart, it took time, it took effort to build up and to sustain and to grow. And me, I have the wonderful opportunity to just drive on this road that I didn't have the privilege to have to build. But I have the privilege to be able to drive on. And I kid you not, as I'm sitting there driving, I thought about the giants in our lives that have paved the way for some of the greatest thinkers, some of the greatest historians, for some of the greatest speakers, for some of the greatest politicians, for the greatest athletes, for the greatest musicians, for all the professions that we have in this world. Education has literally paved the way, and all the teachers that we see here right now sitting in front of me, as well as those who are watching as well on YouTube, all of you are paving a way for someone to drive on a road that they did not have to build. And I saw just the beauty of this because I realized I wouldn't necessarily be who I am today if it were not for these great paved workers. My 5th grade teacher, Mr. Earlis, he believed in us. And I remember he showed us what a relatable side of education can look like. And it stuck to me ever since this day. I didn't even have to go on Facebook to remember any of these names. I'm telling you right now, I remember them through true, genuine connection. My high school French teacher, Mrs. Lin, she showed us that teaching is absolutely fun, but she also learned how to correct me with love and grace. My orchestra teacher, Mrs. Romeo, she gave me that passion for the violin, helped me to build up my skill, helped me to have that level of motivation to keep moving the distance. My 12th grade English literature teacher, I remember Mr. Raschuti, he showed me how much passion it is for me reading. I used to hate, I don't know about you, but I used to hate reading. And he showed me an opportunity and lit this fire inside of me that to this day I still read and love and enjoy this. And that wouldn't have been possible without the teachers in our lives. My university professor, Mr. Gallows, Dr. Gallows. I've had many university professors, but none like him, who had a heart for the people, who helped us to have this experience of excitement, who believed in us. And even when concepts, because I had to learn Greek in university, it was not easy at all. I didn't like it. But he made it so enjoyable, and he made it that even through the difficult concepts, we were able to dialogue and be able to think through ideas and concepts. And I saw the love and the passion that he had for me, and also for the subject itself. Our teachers have gone through so much, have done so much to help and to bless and to work and to guide us through this every single day. And I'm here to say that truly, we cannot be anywhere without you. And so it saddens me at times when I see some of these statistics and I see the very essence of what's happening within our education these days. Nearly 1 in 2 educators have considered leaving the profession just this year. 39% have reported also that they consider taking sick leave, and 38% have even thought about personal leave. 50% have agreed that there's unsafe working conditions because of aggression, and many of them also feel undervalued. But 1 out of 10 teachers have said that they've never felt valued in their profession. I'm a very optimistic person, and I believe that things can absolutely change. And there's a massive way for us to be able to do this, but the results, what's here, is striking. And I don't want to put this on to show what is happening that's wrong, and I know many of us are already understanding and privy to what is happening here within the state of education. However, what I truly do believe is that there's a way for us to shift all of this. And the shift does not come with a positive mindset. I don't believe that just a positive mindset can address all the issues that we're seeing within education these days. I don't just believe that a positive mindset is going to help reframe everything that's going on. There's something that's going to be tangible, something that's going to be intentional, that's going to make an actionable difference. Because I do believe that the physical or the positive mindset will help with the psyche to help us to deal with the problems that are going on, but it doesn't necessarily address the problems. And I do believe that the antithesis of negativity is not necessarily positivity, but the antithesis of negativity truly is what I call this concept of radical empathy. Radical empathy. And some of us may say, well, Bryan, I know what empathy means. We see the cognitive, we see the emotional, we see the compassionate level of empathy. And that helps us to understand where people are. It helps us to put ourselves in each other's shoes. It helps us to have a little bit more compassion for one another. And it's also often a good exercise in order for us to use when we're looking to shift our mindsets in order for us to understand where people are at. But radical empathy takes an extra step. Because this is now the opportunity for us to stand up, speak up, and show up for the people who we know need it the most, and who we choose to see in the moment, deliberate, looking to help a difference that is actionable and will make the positive difference that we're looking to see within our education. And what I do hope is that we're able to see this radical empathetic approach. We're able to see how this can be used to massively shift the way that we are working together, Because again, I believe that we win together and we're able to make a difference together, but it takes a level of action. Because I'll be honest with you, I've worked years with youth. And so working years with youth, it puts me in a position where I'm constantly looking at the perspective and the objectives that are helping with the youth as well in society. And I've always gone and I've said to teachers everywhere that I go, you need more empathy for the kids. And I'm pretty sure you've heard this before. What's your why? What's your why? And it's constant to that approach of what is the teacher doing specifically for the students. And I'm looking to reframe this just one time, where we can start thinking now about the perspective, about the feelings, about the unaddressed issues that are also happening on the side of our professors and our teachers that are constantly giving themselves day in and day out within education. I've spent years saying that teachers need to give empathy, but where is the empathy also that is being given to our teachers? I go to different school assemblies, and I remember having a radical empathy speech for high school students and middle school students. And I had teachers who literally came to me and said, thank you so much that you're speaking and giving them the tools to be able to also work with this in their schooling, but also to us. But I'm not going to lie to you. The reason why I understand why it's important for us to treat our teachers better is because I was also that kid that didn't teach your teachers better. I was there. And I remember being in grade 7. Anybody here play instruments? Raise your hand if you play an instrument. Okay. Well, I was in grade 7 and I played the violin. I'm going to ask you one more question. Do you guys know who Doug Funny is? You're old enough. Do you know who Doug Funny is? Doug, no, you guys don't. Nickelodeon? Okay, maybe I'm too young. I don't know. We'll see. So there's this cartoon character. His name is Doug Funny. And he would take his banjo and he had this song, banging on the trash can, banging on the street light. And so I thought it was good to take my violin while my teacher is trying to conduct and express what is going on. And I would take my violin on the back and do the beat and smack it up. And I'm singing and I'm bringing my friends along. And my teacher would constantly get upset at me. Every single day was the same thing over and over again. Bryan, can you stop? Bryan, stop talking. Bryan, get together. Bryan, come on, man. I'll never forget. One day, just pretend this is a door. I didn't do anything, okay? I walked into class. He was like, Bryan, get out. I was like, all right. I didn't even question it. He just did not want to deal with me at that point. And I sat down. My assistant principal came out. Said, Bryan, what you doing out here? I said, I didn't even do nothing. And he said to me, Bryan, come on, man. There's no way you didn't do anything. I said, sir, there is nothing that I did today. And he said, today. I said, come on, man. Don't do that. I remember he took the teacher out, and the teacher, Mr. Ira Dressler, I remember he spoke to me. He said, Bryan, you don't think about others. You don't think about what's going on. I have a hard time teaching every single time you're here. That stuck with me. Because what I realize is that I'm not helping elevate the classroom. I'm not helping to elevate where everyone, because yes, I'm a good violinist. I do well. But just because I do well and I know the material, that doesn't mean that I can now distract other people from not having a wonderful learning experience. And I remember in grade 7 being able to hear that teacher express himself in this way, and it forced me to think about his perspective. Now, I'm not saying I did perfect after that. Don't come out here with this. But it did make me think more. It made me question my actions more. It made me stop and think just for a moment. And I remember when I was a teacher and I had that kid that kept annoying me in the class and kept talking when I was talking and kept distracting other students. I thought to myself, Bryan, that was you. Bryan, you've done that before. How can you now address this specifically with him? And how can you make sure that he also learns how to elevate this class? When I sit there and I think about radical empathy, I don't believe that this is just an option anymore. I believe that radical empathy is an absolute tool that we can use on a very strong basis, and it can absolutely help not only change or transform the way that we see each other, but it also transforms the way that our educational system can make a massive difference. Because it goes through these three simple concepts. It's simple, yet very powerful for us to use. It's see, care, and act. See. Everyone has, or almost everyone has, that ability to be able to see. We're able to acknowledge the issues that we're seeing around us. But the problem is many of us sometimes lack the care to say, our teachers are speaking. They're crying out. We're hearing their voice. We see the problems, yet do we care enough to make the difference? And sometimes, yes, we do care. We do have that level of compassion. But then what is the next step that allows us to now take the next movement in order to elevate the situation? Radical empathy puts us into this place where we start thinking deeply on all levels of education, where it's not just teachers having empathy, but it's students learning empathy. It's teachers building empathy. It's administrators developing more empathy to our teachers. It's boardrooms that are literally thinking with empathy on how this is impacting the classrooms. It's what I call empathy on all levels to all levels. Having the opportunity for us to think drastically and understand the perspectives of the people that we know is affecting us. Realizing that our voice, our thoughts, and our actions make a tangible difference for us, for all of those around us, and it's not just only holding to ourselves. And I say this because the more and more I started to develop empathy, the more I started now looking to see it within others and helping to push it out. And so I remember being in a school, and I had a student. I'm not going to say their names, but I had a student, and he was a hothead. And I know many of us have dealt with an angry student. If you haven't, I hope you don't. But I've dealt with quite a few. And I'll never forget, though, Bruce Perry, he gives us three-step concept. The 3 steps are very simple. This is 3 R's that he gives: regulation, relation, and then reasoning. And a lot of us, sometimes we go from regulation into this reasoning step, but we miss this crucial step of relating to the person that we're with. And I'll never forget, I remember this was my first week of school. Cody, the student came out, and I remember he put himself in this position where he was about to fight a student. And I jumped in and I said, hey man, let's separate this. And I remember he was so heated, he was so upset, and he told me, he said, well, Mr. St. Louis, well, I could take this kid. And I said, absolutely you can, but so what will that do for you? Because now he controls you. He said, what do you mean he controls me? I said, he controls your actions because now you're choosing to do something due to him speaking on you. And he said, what do you know? And I said, man, I used to fight all the time. I grew up in New York. I know how things are. I understand where you're coming from. But I need you to realize that it never served me anything. I said, you know what helped me was learning how to manage my control and emotions, and I started working out. And I remember I brought him to the gym, him and another student. We worked out twice in 2 weeks. And those 2 weeks of us just working out and just connecting together made the difference for the 2 years that I was with him in that school. The ability to relate to the situation or relate to the person made the extra step that was necessary. That empathy that we're able to build for our students, the empathy that we're able to build for our teachers, all of this allows us the opportunity to connect properly, but to understand where the person is coming from, because it allows us the opportunity to truly see the humanity in the person. I've told you already, I've been to many different countries. I don't speak Chinese. I'm learning Spanish. It's not that good, but I know a little poquito. I'm learning and getting to know different languages or different people around the world. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm able to communicate the language that they have. But the one language that I do believe that all of us can speak is this language of empathy. Because that language of empathy allows us the opportunity to truly see the humanity in one another. And I don't say this with theory. This is not a theoretical practice. This is not something that I saw or I believe is possible. These are things that I've seen the power of radical empathy truly transform our being and the people who were within it. When I was a principal, I had a teacher, and I'll never forget, he had a hard time in the school. We were a bit of a different type of school. And again, we had harder students. But he had worked in education. He had worked in public schools for 30 plus years. And so coming into the school, he had a very difficult time. And I remember I sat back and I would watch. And I asked myself the question, if I was in his position, he's a 60 plus year old man. Of course, he's having a difficult time to try to understand or maybe even relate to the students. And so I remember I would work with him, and he would come into my office sometimes. We would talk together, and he would express his frustrations. He would share with me what is going on. And I never tried to debase him for what was going on, but I allowed the space for him to just be able to speak, and I'd be able to listen to him. I was only 27 at the time. Students would come to me and tell me, Bryan, or Mr. St. Louis, and they weren't calling me Bryan, at least I hope. But Mr. St. Louis, man, he doesn't get us. He has a hard time. Why is he still here? And I would tell him, I'd sit them down in my office, and I'll tell them, how many of you have taken the time to get to know him? How many of you have taken the time to ask questions, have the time to develop a relationship, to see things from his perspective? Because you automatically want to see life in your way. What about his? And I never forget, months later, some of those students who would come into my office are the same ones who were telling me he's the best teacher. And I'm like, what happened to me? I thought I was here this whole time. The willingness to see from his perspective and then build this bond, it changed everything. But if I had been someone who had said, well, do your job better, well, figure it out, he would have had a tougher time, and it was never related to the students the way he did. I was 28 when I left that school, and I ended up coming up here to Calgary. And I'll never forget what he told me. He came and spoke to me before I left. He said, Bryan, I've worked in education for over 30 years. I've never had somebody who cared for me in a leadership position as much as you did. You showed us what it means to help people and to really lead people properly. And I'm not out here saying that everything I did was perfect. I'm not out here trying to say that the things that I did were always right. But there was something about this concept that I didn't even, to be honest, my wife is the one. I remember she was writing about me. She was writing my bio a few years back. And she said, Bryan employed radical empathy to the people he worked with. And I said, that's it. That's the concept. So I'm not going to lie. I've actually stole this from my wife. So my apologies. I love you if she sees this. But the second I saw the concept of radical empathy, I knew that that's it. This is the framework. See, care, act. Something that is tangible, something that I know I can take, I can do to make the difference. Because if I had left it alone, not only would his experience in the classroom been terrible, but it would have also caused the drift and the confusion and the deprivation of our students. And what I realize is the more and more that we're able to bless and to work with our teachers and to uplift our teachers and to help them feel empowered, it not only helps them, but ultimately it transfers to our students. Because the more and more that we pour into our teachers, the more and more that we take care of the heart of our education, the more and more that we're able to help them to feel better, to feel valued, to feel cared for, we're now seeing that transfer that goes now straight into the very people that need it the most. Radical empathy, it puts us in a position where we do something about it. And I look at these 3 or 5 steps. The first step is what I call heart check. It's a very actionable step. Allows us the opportunity to act on behalf of people. Principals, administrators, this is an opportunity for you to talk to your teachers. Ask how your workload is. Connect with them. How is your heart? How are you just feeling? Because I'm telling you right now, every single person here, everyone that's sitting in this pew, or excuse me, in this section, everyone that's watching online, and everyone that's in this world as well, every single one of us are fighting invisible battles and invisible wars that many of us do not see. And we bring it into the workplace, and sometimes we don't necessarily know how to handle it. But if we have that level of empathy to be able to create this space where we can just check on each other's heart, knowing how difficult the space of education is these days, where we can just check on each other just to see how you're doing, just feel what you're going through, and I'm being there for you. Sometimes not even trying to fix the situation, but allowing you the opportunity to even express yourself openly makes a massive difference. Teachers, they feel that empathy that flows on both directions, and it's now just not just down on students, but it's a cycle that now is being brought out, again, on all levels, to all levels. I've done heart checks with my students. This also offers an opportunity once or twice a week to just check on how our students are feeling. And sometimes even the opportunity for you to check on a student specifically. Just take 2 minutes to ask questions that have nothing to do about this classroom, but just to see how they're doing as a person. And in that heart check, one of the things that I've come to realize is that if I'm having heart palpitations, I have to also check myself. I have to go to the doctor. I have to advocate for myself. And it's important for our teachers to do the same, to be willing to advocate for who they are, for where they're feeling, but to be able to express that in a proper way. And I say it this way, I don't want education wellness to be a check mark that we put on and we give them pamphlets and go home and no one even looks at the pamphlets. We want this to be the very life blood that helps to build out our teachers, helps to build out our educational system. Make it the very oxygen that our students, our teachers are able to feel within our schools. When we check on each other's heart, when we know that we're here for each other, we walk into a space where we truly believe that we are seen, valued, and recognized. Which brings me to my second point, which is recognition. Actively recognizing the people that have done a great job, the people who are working, the people who are having a tough time but still coming in every single day. That recognition, that level of achievement, that level of willingness, this is something that our teachers need on a consistent, general basis. No one likes to do a work that's undervalued or underappreciated. And when we're able to get to this place where we're able to see and understand, because I'm telling you right now, if I walked into a building every single day and I felt underappreciated, I felt undervalued, I don't know what I would want to do too. And actually, I do know because I've been there. And I've walked away from situations, I've walked away from positions because I felt the depths of that spot. And so when we recognize and we're able to understand where someone is feeling, it not only rises their spirits, but again, I like to make an illusion. When we pour, I like to make it this way. When I have a cup of water and I'm always pouring from that cup, at some point, that water is going to dry up and there's going to be nothing left in this cup. But when we have a faucet that's constantly building, constantly giving into this cup, it doesn't matter how many times I give, I'm still being full myself. And I'm able to keep giving because I'm also being given to. Step number 3, I believe that is going to be a very strong, tangible step, is the active listening that doesn't feel punitive. This is an opportunity for teachers to be able to listen to students. This is an opportunity for administrators to listen to teachers, boards to listen to schools, parents to listen to teachers, teachers to listen to parents, and make this in a practical way where we can connect to one another, because the more and more that we're able to have a seat at the table and be able to really listen to others' perspectives without judgment, listening not to respond only, but to be able to understand. And I love this concept that comes from the seven highly effective habits, is that we first first seek to understand people rather than to be understood. It gives us an opportunity to sit down and listen without judgment. Again, not to only fix the situation, but be able to hear the heart of the matter. I believe that with this radical empathetic step that we can take, this allows us the opportunity also to break down the walls of division. I'll be very, very honest with you all. I remember when I came into the school, I grew up in New York, but the school that I taught at was in Indiana. It was 86% white, 13% Hispanic, and I believe 1% black. And I'll never forget when I walked into that school, the first week, there was a student that had an issue, that was upset about something. It was too hot outside. They were doing a job training program. He came in absolutely upset. He ended up saying to his teacher, he said, "I'm not working like no N-word," and looked at me. And I remember I sat back. And I normally ask this question, but I'll just tell you what I did. I bought him food the next day. And so many people ask me the question, why did you buy him food? Number one, I'm hungry all the time. I love food. Number two, the table, that dinner table, when I was growing up, that was where some of the best conversations ever happened. I brought him some food because the Dairy Queen was right across the street from our school. I sat down and I spoke to him. But before we sat down, all the eyes were on us. I remember he told me, he said, "I feel very uncomfortable." I said, "Why do you feel uncomfortable?" He said, "Everyone's staring at us." I said, "Why do you think they're staring at us?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Do you think it has anything to do with the fact of what you said maybe yesterday? That me as a black man with you as a white kid are sitting together and eating?" And he said to me, "I'm sorry for what I said." I said, "Don't worry about that. We'll get to that later, man." We started connecting, we started talking. We had the same name, started relating to each other. Spent a whole year working with that kid. And I'll never forget, I got a call saying that he was in court. And they called me and said, "Bryan, do you know anybody who can do a character witness for him?" I said, "Me. I will." Because the empathetic approach allows me the opportunity to see past what's happening to me and to see what is happening within him. And I had I had parents, especially when I first came in, gave me some of the dirtiest looks. I had parents literally call me on the phone and say that you were N-word. All of these things were happening. I worked through because I knew there was something bigger. And I'll never forget, one day I'm walking in Dollarama and somebody came to me and said, "Are you Mr. St. Louis?" I said, "Who's asking?" And he said, "I heard the great work that you're doing at that school. Keep it up." I was an older gentleman. But I'll never forget just that feeling of sticking through despite a lot of the issues that happened. And everyone was able to see the heart behind how much I cared for every single one of those kids. Not only did the kids feel it, but the parents felt it transferred from me to the kids, to the parents. Sadly, I had to do a eulogy for one of my students who was hit by a car. And his grandparents came to me, and they've never met me before. They said, "Your name has rang thousands of times in my house. You need to speak at his funeral." It was one of the greatest honors, honestly, that I've ever had, somebody to say something like that. And it was so heartbreaking at the same time, but it was a testament to how this approach, despite the difficulties, can relate and connect to the people. It breaks down these walls. of division. And I've seen it real time. Radical empathy, step number 5, also empowers the voices of our students and also the voices of our teachers. And I like to break it down to 4 A's. Whenever I work with, especially working with people who work with students, I like to break down this 4 steps, but I believe this also works as well for our educators. The first step is an antagonizer. A lot of times we start off as an antagonizer to people in some way, shape, or form, where we don't necessarily think or care about someone's perspective. From antagonizing, we go into this step of allyship, where we connect with you, we hear you, I feel for you. And then it goes into advocacy, where now I'm speaking up for you. I want you to know I'm there, but I'm not just going to say it or to show it or to live it, but I'm going to speak up for your behalf. But the 4th A, I believe, is a step that takes it to the next level. And this is a step that many of us sometimes do not take, and I believe can absolutely transform the way that we're seeing our educational system and the way that we're seeing steps within our student relationships. But this 4th step is what I call amplification. This allows you the opportunity to step on the side and for the voices that need to be heard to be amplified. And so it's not you that's on the stage. It's not you that's necessarily being heard. It's the voices of the people who are crying out that are being heard. And what it is that now at this point, you're just tuning it on the side like a sound engineer, just making sure that it's tuned to the ears that need to hear it properly. We go from this level of antagonizing to allyship to advocacy to amplification. And that amplification allows us the opportunity to be able to truly hear the voices of those who are needing to be heard. Perpetual motion is a myth. But radical empathy, I believe, is a true renewable energy that we can use on our day-to-day leadership tools, our day-to-day work within our classes, our day-to-day focuses on how we're seeing each other on a level of humanity, the way that we're thinking about the decisions that we're making every single day, the way that the decisions that are being made are affecting the teachers within the classroom, how the decisions are being made are affecting the students, which now also go into our homes and our communities. And basically, this level of radical empathy puts me in front of a mirror, and the person that I'm seeing is not me, but it's you. And I'm now thinking about what you're feeling, what you're seeing, how you're perceiving things, and what can I make sure to do to make sure that you are coming out of that perspective the best way possible. Because I do believe that the best way for us to be able to elevate one another is to think about our perspectives and to think about how we can actively show and make the difference that can make the person who we're looking at, the person who is going through this, to see the differences and see it in real time. I believe that morality will rise, morals will rise, that school cultures can grow, that we will have stronger senses of sustainability and stability within our schools. I believe that the more and more we're thinking with an empathetic approach, especially to the heart of our educators, this allows them to feel better, which allows them to also teach better. This is not just a model that I want us to just think about, but I want us to start thinking specifically on how can I act on this day to day. Because the way that we as adults choose to live, our youth are seeing this every single day. Our youth are seeing the ways that we're choosing to speak to one another. Our youth are seeing the ways that decisions are affecting one another. And if we want to model the behavior, the ways that we want our world to be, it starts here. The school is not just meant for them to be able to learn about books or math without them being able to learn about life and being able to learn how to connect to one another. And I try to make this as simple as possible. What good is it for them to learn English literature if they can't even read the emotions of the people? What good is it for our students to learn math if they can't calculate what it takes in order for them to help others? What good is it for them to learn history if they continue to repeat the same mistake that we as adults are making to one another? And what good is it for them to learn science if they can't see the humanity of the educators who are teaching them as well? When we exhibit empathy to one another, we're teaching this through the model of how our students, our community, our people are also able to see this through the core of our very educational identity. And I believe that as much as we take care of our heart, we will see that this will now transfer itself into many aspects that will ultimately help to continue the blood growth of all of our education. I want to leave you with this story, because this story is basically what changed everything for me when it comes to radical empathy. I just want to make sure I have time. Radical empathy, again, is not just a theory. But radical empathy is the true concept that has changed me. When I was a teacher, I had a student that was having a hard time in school. In fact, I'll go back a little bit. He was brought to my school, and we were told that he's having a difficult time. In general, he's not showing up to school. I came into my school first day, had a meeting with him. I said, "Man, how you doing?" He said, "I'm doing well." I said, "All right, man. Listen, we want to see you succeed here, and I'm going to do everything that I can to help you succeed." That's what I said. That's what came out of my mouth. I said, "I'm going to do everything that I can to help you succeed." And he said, "I'm going to show up to school." I said, "All right, man, we're here for you. We're going to push you. We're going to make sure that this happens." In 3 weeks, how many times do you think he showed up? Take a wild guess. One more time. So twice. That first day, and then one more time he showed up. I could have done what typically happens, and I was just like, hey, well, maybe he gets kicked out, or maybe we need to talk to parents or whatever. But there was something, I was like, no, knowing the situation, that I didn't know the whole story, but there was something that was happening. I was like, let me figure this thing out. Had a parent meeting at his house. Came in, spoke with both of the parents, sat down at the table. And I remember he told me, he said, "Mr. St. Louis, I'm going to do everything I can to keep showing up." And I said, "Yeah, you told me that before, so what's going to be different now?" And his parents told me, he said, you need to tell Mr. St. Louis what happened. He tells me, he says, "You see that house over there?" I said, "Yes, I see that house." He said, "Every single day, me and my uncle used to work on that house. We would work and build this house out. We would develop it. It was a beautiful dome home. It was astronomical. Big property, big land." He said every day, came to school, worked on the home. Went to school, worked on the home. Him and his uncle were tight. He comes home like he normally does. Walks into the house next door like he normally does. But what he saw absolutely changed his life. His uncle had died and had taken his life. And he was the first one on the scene. He saw his uncle. He had to take him down. He had to call the ambulance. He had to call 911. He had to call his father. He had to call his mother. This wasn't a student. He was in high school. This is his last year in high school. He's a senior. This wasn't a student that was not wanting to do the work. This was a student that was broken. I heard his story. And I remember that. I said, "Parents, you have cameras around your house." Of course, after I, expressed my condolences, I said, "You have cameras around your house. Are you okay that I drive to your house and knock on your door?" Because one of the problems that they had was that they leave for work every day at 6 a.m. and he doesn't leave until 7:30. And so the problem was always that he just wakes up and wakes up on his own time. They can't get him up. I said, okay, I see you, I care for you, I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna act on your behalf. Can I drive and knock on your door, make sure he wakes up, and then now he has to follow me in his car to school? They said, Mr. St. Louis, you already drive 30 minutes to get to work. That's an extra 15 minutes for you. That means it's going to be an hour for you now. I said, I don't care. If it means that he can graduate, because he can do the work, he just has to get here. If it means that he can graduate, is it okay if I do this? And they said, absolutely. For 3 months, I knocked on that kid's door every single day. I had teachers who told me, Bryan, you're doing too much. I had district supervisors who said, Bryan, you're doing too much. I said, if it means, and look, I know I can't do this for everybody, but if it means helping even one person, this one student, I'm going to do this. 3 months, I knocked on that kid's door. I'm happy to say that not only did he graduate high school, he's thriving years later. Still gives me a call or sends me a message here and there to let me know how he's doing in life. Beautiful family and everything of that nature. But the story doesn't end there, though. Anybody here born in August? Yes, we got a lot of August babies. That's good. My birthday is August 2nd. If you ever want to send me a birthday present, my P.O. box, I'll give it to you later, okay? But August 2nd is my birthday, and I remember my wife decided to surprise me for in the school, because we started since, I want to say, like the end of July. So we had longer breaks throughout the year. Like our spring break was like 3 weeks. Our fall break was 2 weeks. Winter break was 3 weeks. So we had a shorter summer, but longer breaks throughout the year. And I'll never forget, she brings me in, oh, this birthday present, and everyone's happy. I'm like, oh, man, this is great. This is amazing. I get home, and my wife gives me 2 presents. And in one present is a beautiful box. It's a very beautiful box. And I'm not going to lie, I'm attracted to beautiful things. My wife is a very beautiful woman, so I take the beautiful box. And inside the beautiful box is a beautiful watch. And she has this other box that's a little broken and dingy and doesn't look nice. And I said to myself, I don't really care about that because, it's probably not that good. And she said, Bryan, open the box. I said, I don't want to open the box. She said, just open the box. I said, all right. What do you think was inside the box? Anybody? Take a wild guess. Take a wild guess. Say it again. A letter. That would have been nice. That would have been nice. But no, not a letter. Not a letter. 2 more guesses. And that would have been cool too, man. Rock one on the no. One more guess. One more guess. What was inside the box? Not a photo. Not a photo. But so there was like a garment. It was a garment. And I remember I took out this garment and I'm like, this garment is too small for me to fit in. It's a yellow onesie. And I'm like, what can I do with this? Why do you give me a yellow onesie? And she's looking at me like, Bryan. And I'm like, Keziah, what do you tell? And I'm like, oh, and I literally fell to the floor, came to find out we're having a child. It blew my mind. I was so happy. I was so excited. When I tell you, it brought me this sheer sense of joy. And every day I would put this onesie, when I got home, I would put this onesie on my shoulder. It was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful mark. And then I found out 3 months later that it's a girl. Her name, and we decided to call her Cornelia later on. And then come to find out, she's also going to be born on our wedding anniversary. So I found out that she's pregnant on my birthday. She's going to be also now delivered on our wedding anniversary. Just beautifully blew my mind. On March 15th, my wife gives me a call. I just got the acceptance, and I was transferred up as the administrator now, the principal of the school. I had the new job position. More money was coming in. Things were doing better. I get the call. My wife says, I always mess this up. Is it Braxton Hicks or Bristol Hacks? Braxton Hicks. Thank you. She says, I think I'm having Braxton Hicks. And I'm like, what does that mean? I didn't even know what I meant at the time. She was like, it's like phantom pains or something of that nature. I said, are you sure? I think you might as well go get checked just to make sure. So she goes in, finds out that she's in labor. I drive over, because we were having a district meeting with all the principals. It was about 2 hours away. I drive over and I get to the hospital. And I'll never forget, when I get to the hospital, the doctor tells me that her blood pressure is about like 180 over 100, something of that nature. I said, okay. So is she okay? He says, absolutely, she's going to be fine. We're just monitoring her. But, you know, her blood pressure is higher than normal, but we're going to keep watching her. After a couple of hours, ladies, I don't know about you, but her sister was like massaging her hand, you know, was there to comfort her. And then her sister left. And so I came in and I tried to do the same thing, where I was massaging her hand. And she said, Bryan, don't touch me, man. I said, no problem, no problem. I won't do this again. I promise you. I learned. But came to find out, they said, oh, we need to move forward, and I think we need to do an emergency C-section. We do the emergency C-section. I remember I walked into the building, or the operation room. I had just washed my hands and everything of that nature. I sat down, I held my wife's hand, and I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm ready. And I know she was feeling a little pressure, but you know, at the end of the day, things were still moving forward. I was still excited to see our baby girl. And I remember the doctor, as he's doing the procedure, gentlemen, please don't do what I did. I watched the whole thing. I said, if she can go through it, that's a little too much empathy. That's what, if she can go through it, I can watch it. And I said, no, I won't do that again the next time, which I did not. But at the end of the day, you know, we had this experience together, and it was absolutely magical. And I remember the doctor told me, he said, Bryan, have a seat. Your daughter is ready to be brought into this world. And I sat down, and I sighed this sigh of relief. And I remember he did the final incision, and he opens up, and I see this beautiful baby girl. And I looked her in the eyes, and I was a proud father. And I'll never forget that moment that brought so much joy that quickly turned into fear. Every baby is supposed to cry. I'll never forget, I waited 5 minutes for her to cry. I waited 10 minutes for her to cry. I waited 20 minutes for her to cry. I waited 30 minutes as I'm seeing the doctors trying to put life back into your child. It was a scene that I don't have any enemies, but I wouldn't want my worst enemy to see. The sheer hopelessness, faith, and yet powerlessness to do anything about it. I'm sitting there, even begging, if my life were to be taken in order for her to live, I would let that happen. And at the 45-minute mark, they decided to make the call. And what became one of the best days of my life literally turned into the worst nightmare. I remember when they carted my wife away to go to the room. That second that door closed, I cried a cry that to this day I can't replicate, and I do not want to replicate. The sheer brokenness. My heart was literally done. I held her in my hands, knowing that was probably one of the last times that I would ever be able to do that. That same day, I had someone tell me that my daughter passed away due to my lack of faith. I had calls that came in and said, you're a man. You don't need to worry about that. That's your wife's pain, not your pain. I had people who were focused on me suing the hospital more and getting money. At least you get money from the situation rather than the pain of losing a daughter. I remember when we had the funeral, I put her in that hole. Until this day, I think I've only been back once. But it scarred me and it broke me. I remember even being at school, and I never cried in front of my students. And I held it in for many months. But one of my students said, "Man, Mr. St. Louis, you're like a father to me." And at that moment, I just broke down in a way that I just couldn't control myself. And my students surrounded me. They said, "Mr. St. Louis, we're here for you, man." My teachers came at, said, "Mr. St. Louis, if you need to go home, go home. Like you've been doing this. Just take a day." And I remember driving home. I got a call from one of my district supervisors, and he said, "Why are you going back home?" I said, "I'm just having a really hard time, as you know, with everything that happened with my daughter." And he said, "Why didn't you just cry in your office?" I felt the lack of empathy. I felt what it can do to someone, again, fighting sometimes visible or invisible wars. And the impact that it can make on you, which ultimately also now impacts the space. But I also felt the radical empathy. My students, that same student that every day I knocked on his door, that was a student that ended up buying me a dog. And he orchestrated the whole thing. He actually fooled the heck out of me. He brought me to this farm, and he was like, "Do you like those dogs over there?" I was like, "Yeah, those are nice dogs, man." I started petting the dogs. Everything. I just didn't even think about it. Next week, I see this dog in my school. I'm like, what is going on here? And it was expensive. This is not like a small. I was so shocked, but yet my student orchestrated this whole thing with all of the other students and the staff. And so we know we can't replace your daughter, but we just wanted to give you something that we wanted to show you how much we care for you. I didn't know what it felt like to lose an uncle that way. And he didn't know what it felt like to lose a daughter. But I was willing to have that level of radical empathy for him, and he had a level of radical empathy for me. And I tell you this because that radical empathy saved my life. When I was done with school, and you guys know how it feels. School's done, all the books are done. Actually, the job is finished now. But I sat in my house by myself. I told my wife, I said, "It's okay for you to go on this vacation, to go see your best friend's wedding. You're fine. Like, I'm okay. And she said, "Bryan, no, I'm going to stay with you." I said, "No, I'm okay. I'm fine." These words that some of us men love to use, "I'm okay, I'm fine." And the second she left and the second work was done, and I remember sitting in my couch, I literally could not move. I was paralyzed. I was broken. Literally, my heart was defeated. And as the day came, and I remember it was a Wednesday of that week, the day I decided I was like, this is done. This pain is too much. I was ready to take my own life. That dog kept licking my face. And it kept, and I don't know what it was, but I'm telling you, that dog knew something. And it just kept licking me more and more. And I tried to push it away, and it kept coming back. And I tried to push it away more, and it kept coming back even more. And I'm telling you to this day, if that student never made that radical empathetic step to give me that dog, I don't even know if I would be here today. Radical empathy is an actionable decision to love powerfully, to see somebody, to see teachers. I believe, again, the very lifeblood of our educational system, to see you and say, I will do something on your behalf. I will speak up on your behalf. I will stand up on your behalf because we want to see you at your best. Decisions that are made on your behalf, decisions in boardrooms, what I'm calling for is that we are living with a level of empathetic views and resolve to see the best for our educators. I saw it literally change my life. I gave it. I still give it. And I believe that the more and more we're able to live with this view of empathy, this will be able to change the way that we're able to see one another, but also uplift the educational morale of everyone within our buildings. I believe this is our year. And if we're going to show it, show this model of how we're choosing to move forward. I believe this is our year to show out our teachers are seen. I believe that this is the year to show that our teachers are heard, that our teachers are valued, that their voices, their decisions, their classes, they matter. I believe that from the boardroom to the classroom, empathy needs to be poured out, not only to our students, but again to our teachers, to be able to make actionable differences, to hear what they are asking for, to make the decisions that are proper for the very essence that will absolutely elevate our educational system. Empathy calls us to see the humanity of each person through their own story, through their life, and through their lens. And if this is the year, when this is the year that we choose to employ radical empathy as a choice, this is the year that our teachers, that our heart will be taken care of. And so I believe, once again, that in order for us to love powerfully, we have to lift each other up intentionally. And that through this aspect of radical empathy that allows us to hear one another, to speak up on behalf of one another, this is a winning model. But the first step that we have to take is introspection. We have to ask ourselves, do I live with empathy even for myself? To see the difference, to care enough about what's going on through my life. Because if I don't always like what I see, it's going to be harder for me to see others and like what I see in them. And so when we learn to love ourselves, or we're able to sit with our own feelings, to sit with our own thoughts and see how our decisions impact our own lives, we're able to also sit with others and see how our decisions and our voice can impact their lives as well. Number two, I believe we need to ask ourselves the question, who am I in this moment and who am I being for others in this moment? It allows us to sit sometimes in discomfort, but it also allows us to feel personal, to move from ego to curiosity. That even if something is happening to us, or we may be triggered, or we feel attacked about a situation, we're able to question more about what is happening inside of them instead of always wondering what is happening to us. And three, I believe that in order for us to build up this more radical empathetic approach, we have to anchor ourselves in the things that we value. We can't always control what other people are doing. We can't always control what is happening to others, but we can always control ourselves. And what we choose to do and what we choose to say and how we choose to think in a situation can absolutely make a difference, positively or negatively, for the people around us. When we employ radical empathy, we are employing an actionable skill and tool that can make a difference for our people. And the more and more we choose to this day to say, I will live with empathy for you. I will start it with one another. I will think about it when I'm in leadership positions. I won't forget, like for instance, when you're a principal, you won't forget what it felt like to be in the classroom. When you're in the school boards, we won't forget what it felt like to be in the classrooms. When we're a parent, we won't forget what it felt like to be a teacher. Or we will think about what it may be like in their perspective. We're going to be thinking about who we are as a people, seeing the humanity for one another, and able to say, I want to see your success. I want to see your elevation, and I am here for you. Despite what you may be going through, I want to be the person to help raise you up. Radical empathy says this, and it lives this. And if we can choose to make this step every single day, I believe once again that we as a people can win together. And we can powerfully lift each other up when we make the intentional step to say, I care enough to see life from your lens as well. And thank you for your time. And I do believe once again that all of you can win this year. If we choose that empathy will be the step that we take, radical empathy will be the step that we take on all levels, to all levels. Thank you very much for your time. Want me to stay here? Okay.
I had to ask Melissa to check my makeup because seriously. Thank you. Okay, as a teacher, I feel nourished, valued, and most importantly, seen. So thank you for that. Bryan, you have inspired us to embrace the passion and the heart of using radical empathy to lead and to lift each other up. We have gathered some New Brunswick curated items for you to fall in love with and hopefully, perhaps, to entice you to return our way. Bryan, thank you for sharing your message, to see, to care, and to act together. We appreciate you. Let's give a round of applause to Bryan St. Louis one more time. Thank you so much.